we would like to welcome you to tonight's session. And we are excited. This is something that we're individually excited to hear about because we haven't been to the library in who knows how many years. And now I would like to introduce our speaker. Pam Brett started her interest in genealogy over 40 years ago with the birth of her first child. She began seriously pursuing her family history in 1999. Most of her ancestors came to America early and moved often, leading her to research in 31 states and the District of Columbia. I'm lucky I've only done 3 or 4, Pam. She has done some previous or taught previous classes for us, and one of them was On the Road, which is very popular, and another class titled Location, Location, Location. And I don't think that's all that she's taught, but that's what I can remember at this time. All righty, Pam, take it away.
Okay, I'm glad to be here. It's a little strange being on Zoom. I love teaching classes at CGS, but I'm used to walking around the classroom and, asking people questions, see what you're up to. I don't even know who's there. So it's a little strange for me, but I hope you'll enjoy it. As the topic says, I went to Salt Lake City this October and spent 10 days. It was the first time I'd been there since probably January for GRIP, I think not GRIP, SLIG. Yeah, SLIG in January of 2020. So that was the last time I was there. What you see on your screen is the reopening of the Family History Library on July 6th. And that's the line of people waiting outside. And I will share with you some information on what's happening in the library, also what's happening around in Salt Lake City. And I will share some of my little favorite things about researching in Salt Lake. I hope towards the end, we all will be able to have a conversation. I can turn off my PowerPoint and Lisa and Jacqueline will tell me if this is going to work out. But I would really love to have input from other people that have been there since the reopening, or people who have been there many times and have little hints that they would like to share with other people. So let's get started. Oh dear, let's see. Okay, where were you on May 24th, 1999? Anybody have an idea what happened on that very important day? It was important in my life. And as the introduction said, that's kind of when I really got seriously started in genealogy. That was the day that the LDS Church launched their family history website. And I was one of the people trying to get in. And I think I had a dial-up internet at the time. It wasn't easy, they crashed, but I had so much fun. And I decided that I was going to get deeper into my family history by way of their website. At the same time, I was starting to do research up in CGS and up at the Temple in Oakland. And I was there doing some very, very rudimentary, baby steps genealogies, when I heard some people at a table next to me said, "Oh, I was in Salt Lake City this weekend." And I went, "Oh my gosh, I never thought about that." I mean, it's not that far. So as chance would have it, I had some time off from work. My husband and I had planned a trip together, but he wasn't able to make it. And then also in the meantime, my father had lots of timeshares all over the country. And I found out there was a timeshare in Salt Lake City that was available for the week that I wanted to go. I asked my good friend, Vinnie Schwartz, if she would like to go with me because she too was just getting started with genealogy. So the two of us, baby genealogists, went to Salt Lake City. It was in October of 1999, and the timeshare that I'm talking about is called the Kimball Condominiums. I ended up buying a unit there, which has lots and lots of advantages. You can see up in the corner, it's got a kitchenette, a bedroom and a living room, and it's very, very cozy. It also is like within 2 blocks of Temple Square. If you look at the picture down on the bottom, you can see the temple there. Well, this view is from the Kimball Condominiums. It's right across the street from the conference center. I'm not selling units, but it has turned out to be one reason I can go there frequently and be very comfortable and save money. Here are some of my favorite photos over the years. Vinny and I did not take a picture of ourselves in 1999. We've made many trips together, and some I've done by myself or with other people. For a while, we tried to take a picture of ourselves in front of the cabin every year, but then we got too busy and we just rushed into the library and bypassed the cabin. I've been there all times of years. In fact, I figured it's probably 35 trips in 22 years. I love going at Christmas. For many years, I went at Christmas just for the beauty, the tabernacle choir, Christmas shopping. You can see the shepherds in the snow over there. I swear that first shepherd looks exactly like my Jewish husband. So that was winter. In the middle, I have some pictures of tulips, and I love the gardens. My digital camera has hundreds of pictures of the gardens in Salt Lake. They are just a delight. And I walk through those gardens on the way from the Kimball to the library. So I've trod that path many times. The fall photo shows a little stream that's been brought above ground, and it runs right along the street where the conference center is. And it's delightful. Every season, there's different plants there. So that's some of my favorite activities. I'm going to cover what's new, and maybe if I'm not sure who's in the audience, so maybe some of you have been there since it's reopened. Some of you may never have been there. So I'll kind of share a few highlights of my experience in my 35 times to Salt Lake City. Bad news. There's a new Salt Lake City airport, and it is hideous. You can see I've put some little clips of some of the reviews of the airport. There's a website called Skytrax. And as soon as I got home off the airport, I went in and I Googled Salt Lake City airport reviews, and it's universally hated. So that's my first little warning. You can see the picture in the corner. That's the tunnel. And I'll give you another idea. So the airport suggests you arrive at least 2 hours before your flight. And I usually kind of ignore those, but it's really important, especially if you're flying like I do on Southwest Airlines, which is now using the B concourse and the B gates. For the other airlines, which I'm a Southwest person, so if you fly other airlines routinely, you might not have such a bad time. This is the way the new airport is laid out. You can see the terminal and the A concourse with the planes all lined up. And you see the tunnel, and then the other concourse is concourse B, and that's where Southwest goes. They had on their website a very helpful little chart that gives you the walking travel times between these different points, the terminal A, and then the end of concourse B is D. These are really, really underestimated. I remember I saw one sign that says a 7-minute walk. It was not a 7-minute walk. And I'm a fast walker, and it went on and on and on and on. And a lot of people were struggling. So I just wanted to give you a heads up about that. There's been some reconfiguration. It is a brand new airport. Some of it's very nice. It's very airy, clean bathrooms, nice things like that. They've changed the pickup and drop off places somewhat. And it's, when I was there in October, the signage was terrible. I wandered all over trying to find where to get a Lyft ride. And you can see the Lyft ride and Uber drop-offs and lifts are, it looks close, but it's not that close. You can't find it. You wander around. And then I remember the old days when you'd get out of the terminal at Salt Lake and you walk onto the curb and there would be a taxi stand and you'd have all the cabs just line up, free Lyft and Uber. I kind of have some fond memories of those cab drivers. Now you got a whole new group of people, but would be first come, first serve. There'd always be a cab there waiting, you get in and you go. So no longer that way. You can make what when you're making your airline reservation to arrange for a wheelchair, which I did on the way back. I was so exhausted. It was a delight to be wheeled through from the gate, through security, all the way to my spot. We went up and down elevators, and I had a lot of bags. I was carry-ons that were pretty darn heavy. So I don't know if I'll do it every time, but I sure was happy to have that wheelchair ride in October. So I'll open it up just to questions about so far about the airport. Anybody have any questions? I mean,
yes, there are questions.
Okay.
Well, Keith, should I save your question until she starts talking about the library?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about the library. Don't worry. This is not the end. This is just
Right.
Well, yeah, just whenever's right for you.
okay.
All
well,
right. So Nancy said, I was just there for a wedding a couple of weeks ago, and it was a long walk.
Yes.
Fortunately, our only free day was Sunday, so she didn't get to visit the library. And Jeff asked, is Salt Lake City Airport still served by trucks?
I think it is. I got a Uber to the thing, and I think it arrives there. I'm not sure where it arrives, but I'm talking about the walking distance once you get in the terminal. And you,
I believe that the tracks is still stopping where it was, but they're building new tracks to continue to the new part of the airport. So you have even a longer walk
yeah, you do.
from tracks.
And I could go back to that map of the new airport. They do say that they're going to have some kind of shuttle. I don't know what kind of apparatus, but that will make it easier to get between Concourse A and B and bypass that tunnel because that tunnel is the problem. Any other questions about the airport?
That was it.
Okay, great. Okay. Before I get into the library, since I've been to Salt Lake so many times, I was aghast. There was so much building everywhere I looked. It was just booming. And I took quite a few walks because when I was there in October, the library was only open Monday through Friday from, I think, 9 to 5. So I had lots of time to walk. And I wanted to walk and get groceries because I was staying in the Kimball with my kitchen. So I'm used to walking quite a bit around Salt Lake, and I was just flabbergasted. Huge amounts. Familiar blocks were gone, completely gone. Supposedly there's going to be a new Hyatt at the conference center in 2022. I did not see that going up. Maybe I did, but I didn't walk that direction. That'll be a new building. Whole city blocks are being demolished. This is just, I just was overwhelmed with what's the change. And this is not far. This is like 2 blocks off the main drag, these city blocks that are being demolished. And then anybody who has gone to Salt Lake and stayed at the Carlton Hotel, that's completely closed, and I think it's going to be torn down. Vinny and I have stayed at the Carlton many times. If any of you have, it was a delight. You got a full breakfast in the basement before you went off. You could have everything you wanted to eat, and the people were so sweet. So anyway, that's boarded up, and that's going to be torn down. And as I walked farther, I could see more and more buildings of this era, brick buildings that are being torn down. One of my usual walks when I'm staying at Salt Lake for 10 days is I like to go and buy to the wine store. You can buy beer in the grocery store. You can have a glass of wine in a restaurant, but you can't buy a bottle of wine unless you go to a state liquor store. So I usually take a stroll, so about a mile and a half there and back to the state wine store, and I'll show you what it looks. Oh, did I? Right. Uh-oh. Well, I guess I will show that later. I will show that later. This is what Temple Square looks like. It is a construction zone. I guess it closed last year. It's, you can see the pit, and then in the distance, you can see that white granite building. That's the conference center that I've been talking about. And then to the right of that is the, not the Family History Library, but the LDS History Library. So it's a history of the church. And the brick building you can barely see beyond that is the Kimball Condominiums. So, and this is a schematic of the construction zone. It's a huge area that's under construction. I took that picture on October 21. It shows the scaffolding up against the temple. So the temple's there. Maroney's gone. They put him away for safekeeping someplace, so he's not up there. And I like this. If you're interested in the building process, you can go on the Salt Lake City Family History Library website and see, up-to-date construction pictures. And this is just another picture of a tunnel they're going to make underground between Temple Square and I think the conference center. So, and those trees that are along the line, those pretty fall trees, that's where that stream goes downhill in front of the conference center. What's closed? Oh, some of our favorites. JB's is closed. It's not a big loss to the culinary life in Salt Lake City, but it sure was handy. And it's right next door to the Plaza Hotel. I didn't see any signs or any indication about whether that's gonna be reopened or redone or whatever, but it is closed. And some of the favorites that, especially that Vinny and I used to go to when we first started going to Salt Lake, the Garden Restaurant at the top of Joseph Smith and the little fancier adjacent restaurant at the top of the Joseph Smith building, the Rooftop, they are both currently closed now. And I don't know if they're going to be reopened or not. Another few things that are gone for those that have been around, like I have been for a long time. They used to have horse carriages that would go around Temple Square and give people ride at Christmas. Well, those have been banned since 2014. And then my favorite shopping area, store to go Christmas shopping for myself and the men in my family was the Utah Woolen Mills. And I went there, I bought many, many very nice garments, wool, at that store. It's right across from Temple Square. And when I went there this time, it's men's only. So that was kind of sad for me. Some of you who've been to Salt Lake probably know when the Gateway was the big thing in town. It was right near the Southern Pacific Old Railroad building. It was a big mall with restaurants and Apple Store and Williams-Sonoma and fancy restaurants and not so fancy restaurants. There was also a spa there that I would always go to and get a massage when I got worn out doing microphone rewinding. So the spa is gone. Also down in that area is a nightclub. I don't know how many of you have been there, but I've been there a couple of times. I always check when I go to Salt Lake to see who's gonna be there. And I've seen some fabulous artists there. It's a small little nightclub. It's closed, probably because of the COVID. But anyway, so those are all done in the Gateway. And there's really no reason for me to go down there anymore. There's a few stores kind of hanging on, but it is a ghost town, if they're be a ghost mall. It's a ghost mall. We were very excited when the City Creek Shopping Center opened up. That took a long time to get done, but it's quite nice. Every kind of store you want to imagine, and lots of places to eat. And that is very handy. You can see the temple in the background, so it's very, very close by and handy. These are some of my favorites that I set up when I take a walk. I go to the State Wine Store, and right behind it, you can see the new building right behind it. It's only open on Monday through Saturdays from I think 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. So if you want a bottle of wine at 8 o'clock, or if you want something on Sunday, you're not going to get it. But one of the things I discovered when I started going to the State Wine Store is a little restaurant called the Gorman Days. Is that how you say it? Gorman Days? Gorman Days. It's a bakery, but also a restaurant, and it is fabulous. Great, great meals. Takeout bakery. I always get their eclairs to treat myself with. And when I was there in October, I found out that they also have Grubhub or one of those, deliveries. They deliver from there. Then on my way back to the Kimball, I always go to the Harmon's Grocery. And some of you have gone to the Harmon's Grocery. That was also a big, exciting thing when Harmon's opened up. So I wouldn't have to bring all my groceries from Berkeley Bowl to the Kimball Condominiums for a week. So I went to Harmon's. I could barely find it because since I was there last, the building on its left, that big, huge building, that's all new. And I almost walked right past it. So the grocery store is big. You can see a view over there, the aisles. So it's a huge grocery store, but it is being eclipsed by that building next to it. What's not new? The Plaza Hotel is still there. It's looking pretty good. Of course, the Settler's Cabin outside the library is still there. I've only stayed as far as lodging goes, I've stayed at the Kimball, I've stayed at the Carlton, and I've stayed at the Plaza. I know there's many fine boutique hotels. Maybe I've stayed at the Marriott. I did a thing with CGS once, and maybe this is like 15, 20 years ago, so I'm not exactly sure what hotel it was, but there are many fine hotels, but I can't really rate them. So that's kind of my little spiel on what's new around Salt Lake and a few tips on shopping.
Nope, new questions, although Jeff put in the chat about the transportation issues at the airport. There's a leak.
Is it look good? Okay. When I told you when I got back from Salt Lake, I Googled Salt Lake City review, of the airport. And I watched a little segment from the Salt Lake City, one of the news outlets there. And they were talking to the people at the airport, and they said, oh, it's just a 7-minute walk. And so they did the walk, and it was like 15 minutes. So take the things they say with a grain of salt. I'm sure they're very proud of their airport. It's supposed to be able to handle a lot more airline traffic that you could see that they're going to need, because that town is booming.
So Gwen asked about if anyone had any ideas for good places to stay. There, a couple blocks away is a Marriott. There's a Hilton. There's, of course, the new hotel being built. I think, there's a Holiday Inn Express across from the Hilton. So they're further away for it's a longer walk, and the blocks in Salt Lake City are long.
Yes. I never rent a car when I go there. Actually, I rented a car once when my husband and I went there, but I'm always on foot. I'm grocery shopping on foot, so I've been happy where I've stayed, but I know there are lots and lots of options. And I think a lot of those hotels do have shuttles to the library.
Yeah.
I
And
know,
you'll find there's Airbnb stuff too.
oh yeah,
People living in condos, our own condos, will rent them out.
right.
So
And I noticed too that the Plaza Hotel had a shuttle to Harmon's grocery store at 1:00 p.m. It's like, I'm not going to Harmon's grocery store when it was open. So you can ask your hotel what transit options that they can provide. Okay, should we go on?
Wait, Pam, I was there in September and that new hotel is huge.
Yeah,
And it is tall. I don't know how many floors it is, but it is a large hotel.
yeah, plenty of places to stay. You can't beat the Plaza for the proximity. So, okay. So what's new at the library? This is what you probably almost want to hear. It has been reopening slowly. They call the phases, they're calling it different phases. I went there when it was open in phase 2, which was the Monday through Saturday, 9 to 5, closed on Sunday, no evening hours. And then I looked at the library website recently, and they said they are scheduled to open on Tuesday and Wednesday evenings by appointment only. So I don't know if that has been fulfilled or not. So I would definitely check with the website for the current schedule. It's hard to sometimes find what's the current schedule and what's not, because there's a lot of web pages up there that haven't been updated. So go to the library website itself, and I think they've got a link to what's new or what's the latest or whatever. So you need to check yourself what hours it's open. That certainly would be nice to have longer hours. Okay, one of the biggest changes, and of course, you can go on their website and get much more detail about all the remodels that they have done. When they were closed for that time, they did major remodels. The main floor is still what they call the interactive floor, with all sorts of bells and whistles for people who want to learn more about their family history, but not really to do research. But the main difference is the 2 basement floors are now, they say, like they mirror the upper floors. So they have books on one level and microfilm on the other. And they don't have a separate British colonies and then rest of the world collections. They're all together. All the non-American books and microfilm are put in with the rest of the world. They also, I did not visit it in October. I was a very busy little person, but I never made it down to the basement 1, where they say they put all the maps. I love maps. So there's a one-stop place for maps. And as I said, I didn't make it there. Many technology upgrades. Main thing that I cared about is a lot more space at the computer stations. A lot of the stations, but not all, have 2 or 3 monitors, so you can really get set up. When I was there was no waiting for those setups. Maybe when it gets more busy, there might be more of a waiting line to use those those big spots. But the nicest part is those updated stations with the 2 to 3 monitors have microfilm readers right on the table, and you can take your microphone from the drawers, put it there, and scan them directly to your computer instead of going someplace else and taking your reel to be scanned there. And I think I have a couple of pictures of that. Here's my setup on the left. It's my computer that you can see the film reader to the far left. Well, there's the 3 monitors, and then I have my computer hooked in there. I was using a thumb drive to copy the images from the microfilm, and then I put the thumb drive downloaded it to my computer. Took me a while to kind of get used to it. I'm not a big split screen person. I'm trying to acquire more skill in that area, but I figured it out and it was extremely helpful. On the right-hand side is my new best friend, a book scanner with foot controls. I got used to many years ago when they let you put a thumb drive in the Xerox machine to copy the images directly onto your thumb drive instead of on the paper. And when I went to Salt Lake in October, I started doing that, but I went, well, I don't know, what's that book scanner over there? I know they've had them there for a while, but these are a new model, and I can't tell you how helpful it is to have foot controls. You can kind of hold the book open and click it, and it was great fun to use the book scanners. I did not make it to the new break room. I put a picture there of the old break room. Anybody who remembers that? All the vending machines and the little microwave, and I used to go and get ice cream bars and Cheetos, which I never eat anywhere else other than the Salt Lake City Library there, and bring your lunch, etc. Now they have a rendering of the new snack room. It's in the same place as on the main floor, in the way in the back. And now I hear it has a real kitchenette, an ice machine, and most important, a window looks out at the little cabin, settler's cabin, next to the library. I asked several people who had been to this new break room if they had Salt Lake City newspapers pinned up around the room. And I used to enjoy that. They had, you know, the daily newspaper pinned up so you could sit and eat your ice cream sandwich or your Cheetos and read the local paper. So if I go again, I'll try to get a picture of the new break room. Or if any of you go, send me a picture. I want to see what it looks like. A few little minor things. The major minor thing is that the staff refiled your microfilm numbers, not you. So you can get a gobload of them. They asked you to return them to a shelf and write down the numbers of the films that you use so they can kind of keep track of which films are getting most use, but you don't have to put them away yourself. I also took a little picture just to remind you that you can now use water containers in the library. They were very strict for a long time. You couldn't use any containers of beverage containers, even if it was plain water in a closed container. So I did it anyway, but you can do it now with permission of the library.
We can do it legally now.
Yes, you can. Yes. Okay, and then I was struck by the overwhelming difference in the last 22 years of the different displays of different ethnicities everywhere. In fact, those of you who are familiar with the library, there's a staircase between the second floor and the main floor. And on the wall, there was a picture of Jesus Christ and all the people of the world ascending. I can't remember the details. I'm sure you could look it up and see. But a couple of years back, I said, Vinny, do you think some of those paintings have been redone? It seemed like there are a lot different color skin in that painting. Now, that's a total guess. May not be true, but they really have embraced that family history is for the whole world. So I just thought those some of the images on the computers of different kinds of people. Just for your interest. Okay, questions or comments?
There's nothing new.
Pardon?
Although Keith had asked what was the current COVID-related policy.
You know, I'm trying to remember. I wore my mask most people wore the mask. I don't remember. It was like a non-issue. I just wore my mask, and I don't know. You look it up on their website, they can tell you. But no vaccinations had to be shown. We could spread out pretty far. I was far away at wherever I was at a computer. I don't know. I don't know what the policy is. I wore my mask and I felt pretty comfortable.
Nancy asked how crowded was it? It sounds like it wasn't really crowded when you were there.
It was not very crowded at all. There were a few genealogy societies, well, there's one from Texas. You know, so those kind of groups are starting to come back. Compared to what? I don't know. Over the last few years in Salt Lake, there's been fewer and fewer numbers. As more things go online, I think there are fewer people that go to the library. I'm sure the library can tell you what their statistics are, but it was not crowded. I didn't have to wait for anything. So, don't know.
Jacqueline?
Did you notice if they added more lockers, or if they I guess, are the lockers still there? And if so, is there more?
I didn't count the lockers, but there are new lockers. They're very spiffy. I took a picture of them, but I chose not to put it in the my PowerPoint. But one thing I noticed, it was actually related to COVID. In the women's bathrooms, I didn't go in the men's bathrooms. They had those punch the button and opens the door automatically, so you didn't have to touch the handle. I think they did that for compliance with, you know, handicapped requirements. But I thought it was great because you use your elbow, you open the door, and you don't have to touch the knob.
Right. So there still is microfilm there.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Microfilm. And there are books there, and there's more books there. There's plenty that can keep you busy. There's a lot more other technology that I didn't put in my PowerPoint, but they have machines that you can take your slides from your old camera and they can copy them. Other things like that to transfer different kinds of media to new kinds of media. Xerox machines with thumb drives, those usual things. The book scanners and the big 3-monitor desks were really wonderful.
I don't think we have any other questions, so you can
No.
go ahead and move on.
Okay, let me go on. A few other things I want to cover. So right before I went to Salt Lake, I participated in the New York Genealogical and Biographical Society's virtual 2021 conference. It was fabulous. Anybody who has New York people, it's great. And this is the second year it's been virtual. And one of the sessions I almost didn't go to, or I shouldn't say go to, didn't watch, was a session on family search for New York researchers. Now, this was put on by a gentleman named Robert Raymond, and he had a syllabus, which was very useful. I don't feel comfortable sharing his syllabus because it is copyrighted. But since he's a member of the Family Search library, I would say you could try contacting him. And I've got his email address there, and ask him if you can have the syllabus from the 2021 New York State Family History Conference. It was wonderful. And I had a little chance after seeing that presentation by Mr. Raymond and going to Salt Lake to use what he showed. Now, I'm sure part of this probably is on the library's wiki. They've got lots and lots, and you could just spend the rest of your life looking at the little videos and presentations they have on how to use their resources. But I selected some highlights of some of Mr. Raymond's talk, just to let you know that there are new ways of using family search. So I will share. So he said that they are, indexing as fast as they can, but they're continuing to put up new images that they haven't had a chance to index. And as he said, the cameras are not keeping up. The indexing is not keeping up with the cameras. So there's many, every day, thousands of more unindexed images. There's a new way to search. When I was search before I went to this lecture by Mr. Raymond, I would go to the catalog, I would put in the place, and then either put online or both, and then look and see what was available by place, etc. Probably what most of you do. There's another way of doing it. You can go to search images, and I'm going to have some screenshots of this process in a second. But you enter a location, and then you can go to an advanced search and put in more requirements for that search, and you can see. You'll see. I'll just read this, and then I'll go and show the little screenshots I took. And if you're interested in just the most recent images that they've put online, you can go to view the most recently edited images. Mr. Raymond says that it's really a huge project. I can't even imagine how they're going to handle this, but they seem to have a lot of resources. So he says this could take years to get all the films properly labeled and indexed and searchable. But I'm saying it takes a lot of time to learn it, but it's worth it. Forget going to the catalog first, go to search images. And let's see if I can show you some ways to do it. Okay, so if you go to search images, you'll get this place on the website. It'll say explore historical images. And then there's that link if you want to look at the most recent ones, that one in blue, view the most recently added images, you can do that. But the simplest search option, just like it was in the catalog, was to put in a place. And if you want to have more options, that shows you all the different things that you can add in. You can put as many or as few search terms as you want. Dates. You may have seen this, you may not know what this new term is, DGS. I've been seeing it on there in the catalog for a couple of years now. And I thought, I'm not quite sure what that is. I thought it had something to do with digital, something or other. They still have the films, but those films are the physical data, physical images. It's a physical thing. The digital is the DGS. Okay, didn't explain that very well, but you'll see the next page. Okay. So I put in Portage County, Ohio in the search historical images, and it had life events. You can do that, but I decided to put in one of life events. Is kind of sounds funny, but record type. I put in deed books. They have a drop down of zillions of different kinds of record types, and I thought deed books would be a good one. So I clicked on that, and I got the next image. I have that red arrow that goes to it. So that's what you see next. And then if you click on that, you see the bottom. It shows you, you're all familiar with this looks like. It's got the film number, etc. And also be sure to pay attention on the right-hand side of that screenshot at the bottom. And I couldn't quite get it all on, but it has citations on it, and can't remember exactly, but I think it can lead you to more, more records. So try it out. It really is worth it. 1 second, I gotta take a sip. My voice is wearing. Okay, so that's something new for me, and it's worth mastering. Okay, so they're saying that as of June 2021, this past June, they're not adding anything new to the catalog. So if you want to access these films that may have just been put online, you're not going to find them in the catalog. That's why you have to train yourself to go into the search images function. And this is the DGS number at the bottom. This is like on the catalog, you would see something like this. It would say film, and then it would say the DGS, and then the format, whether it's viewable online or locked, etc. So that's highly recommended that you get yourself away from the online catalog and get yourself into search images. Another lovely, lovely new feature is if you're looking for a book, you can do like you used to do, like I used to do, is go to the catalog, go to books, put in the title of the author, whatever, and find it. Now they have a thing called search books, just like search images. It's every word searchable. So it's very powerful. I've used it a lot since I figured out how to do it. You could just spend 3 weeks doing just that on books that you were interested in. Most of the books they have are in the public domain, so they aren't, so you're available to look at them online or download them entirely. Copyrighted books can't be viewed online, but just like if you search on Google Books, sometimes you'll get a snippet as a little segment of using those every word searchable in the search box, and you can get more information that way. So let me give you a few examples of that, screenshots. Okay, this is where you go to search books. Right here, it's called the Digital Library. And I entered Portage County, Ohio in that box. And I got many, 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 many books with that topic. Sometimes a Portage County, Wisconsin would pop in there occasionally, but it worked fairly well. And then once you decided which one you wanted to look at, you go over like you do anyway, and you can click and see the whole book, and this particular one is full view. You can see it all, and you could download it to your computer. So that's pretty much what I wanted to share with you. And I'm open to any questions or comments.
Okay.
Has anybody used these two things, the search images or the search books?
I have not, and that I just learned something from you. They're not updating the catalog. That's all I ever use. I figured everything was there. That's frustrating,
Right.
because I'm looking at the images right now and it's very unclear. It says I can see Deer Lodge, Montana, but none of those images show that. So I'm not quite sure what I'm looking at. Anyway, Mike has a question. Am I right in assuming that even the locked items on Family Search may be viewed at the library in Salt Lake City? I know some can be seen at the affiliate libraries, but not all. Also, that the books they've put online can be viewed on the computers there too.
I take my own laptop into the Salt Lake City library, and I've been able to view the locked images on my computer in the library. When I take them back to the Kimball Condominium and try to do that, it's locked. Now, it's it seems not always consistent. So I couldn't swear that's 100%, but that seems to be the way it is. That if you're in the library and you're on your own personal computer, you can see it. It happened, it worked for me every time. So I don't know.
Well, you can also see it on their computers too.
Right, right. But I'm lazy and I like to sit with my own computer.
So Gwen has a good question. Do you think it would help to hire a person to help you on your first day to get you oriented? I was there a few years ago.
Gee, I don't know. I don't know your level of computer skills or how deep your research is. I can't answer that. I think, Lisa, you probably might want to mention a CGS trip to Salt Lake, perhaps in the distant near future.
Perhaps. She said she's highly skilled, so I think, Gwen, you'll be able to figure it out. But going on a trip with another group, usually there's a tour leader or two that are there to help the tour goers to maneuver. And then they have lots of they have missionaries that help people. A lot of them help them on computers, and then they have research specialists that you can make appointments with it, to do some deep stuff.
The missionaries, I'm sure they're all have a higher place in heaven. They're very sweet. A lot of them don't know much about the topic. So it depends on what you ask. You have to kind of figure out who you want to ask. Research specialists for sure. I know one advantage of going to Salt Lake is having people that do translation. They can read old Gothic script. They can translate into, from Italian into whatever. So those people are there for your use. Most of my questions I had was with the technology when I got set up at that 3-monitor place. I asked for help in trying to get it, to learn how to use that. I'm sure you can hire someone to do everything. I don't know. But Gwen, if you wanted to contact me separately, I could maybe give you some more advice if you had specific questions.
And Gwen, I do know that Family Tree Magazine sponsors a trip every year to the library, and they have people that are experienced that go along. So you might want to do some Google searches on that.
NGS does too.
I think New England Historical and blah, 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 PS and EHGS does theirs. New England does theirs too. I've been there when they've done theirs.
CGS has done them before. We just haven't done them in the last few years because of COVID. We're not sure if we're going to do one next year or not, based on what's happening with COVID. But we have been talking about it to maybe start that up again. We just haven't made any final decisions on it.
Any more questions? I have a little more things after this question period, but any more on this topic on the
There are no more, so you could continue.
Okay.
Have more.
All right, I have just a little bit more. So when I talked to Jacqueline yesterday, she said, well, I don't think I have much to do with the library anymore. I think I've seen it all.
I'm supposed to say that.
Well, no, bad. But I asked myself that question. Why do I keep going there? Isn't it? We know everything's not online. But I'm going to give you a case example of something I found in the last 15 minutes of my 10-day trip. And this is why I'm going to continue to go to Salt Lake City. It helps me meet the genealogical proof standard to conduct reasonably exhaustive research. Not reasonably exhausting research, but reasonably exhaustive research, because we know that not every book in microfilm 1 has been digitized. And there's no place I think, on the planet that you could go and have all the different countries and resources at your fingertips. So I have an example of what I did the last 15 minutes of my 10-day trip. I have a brick wall. Her name is Electa Clark Perry Garfield. She's my 4th great-grandmother. She's also my 3rd great-grandmother. And if you've ever taken a class from me, you may have heard why that happens, that she's both. She was born in Vermont. She lived in 2 towns in Rutland County, Vermont, Paulette and Orwell. When she married, she lived in the adjacent county, Addison, and Leicester. Can't see what I'm saying. What's Bristol? Is it Bristol? Oh, Bridport and Shoreham. She lived briefly with her husband, her 2nd husband, Mr. Garfield, in Shroom Lake, which is right across the lake from Vermont in Essex County. Then she moved to Portage County, Ohio, and she lived in Aurora, Streetsboro, and Shalersville. She died probably in Shalersville, Ohio, before the 21st of February, 1848, when her husband remarried. So I don't know, and I don't know where she was buried. So this is what you know about her. She's one of my favorite people, and I want to know when she died and where she's buried. So I've been lucky to do a lot of on-site research. I've been to all these places in Vermont in person, not to mention in Salt Lake, in Fort Wayne, online, etc. I've been physically to all these different places. I've been pretty much everywhere she's lived. Also, the town halls in some of these small towns in Vermont, where the town hall is only open Tuesdays from 2 to 5:30, the 3rd month of the 2nd year or whatever. And they're not open often, but I make an elaborate chart that I can try to hit as many places when I'm doing on-site research. So I've researched her in Vermont. I've been to where she lived in Shroom Lake in Essex County, New York. I've actually I stayed on a little cabin right near where she lived on the river. And that's the graveyard, the Garfield graveyard. She's not buried there, but her father-in-law, also my ancestor, Elijah Garfield, is buried. So I've been there. Then I went to Ohio, and these are all the places I went to in Ohio, trying to find her. Again, if you've taken any of my classes, this pile of books is worst archives I've ever seen in my life. It's in Portage County, and they were really kind to me. They said, look whatever, go look at anything you want, do anything you want, but don't, and just hope your book that you want is not on the bottom. So that's the archives I went to looking for her, because I know she probably died in that county. I searched all the graveyards in that area, and I looked for the ones that had burials around the right time. And there was one that in Streetsboro that I searched. I also went to all the little historical societies. I gave $25 donation to the Shalersville Historical Society, hoping they could help me find her. I haven't found her. So what are you gonna do? So I saw many years ago something online on in the Family Search catalog, and you can see the title up there. It was church records in that area I know that she lived in. And I've been to Salt Lake many times since I first saw that. In fact, I first saw that in 2009. And it's film only. And I would go to Salt Lake, I'd say, I don't have time, it's film only, I'm not gonna do that. So this time, the last 15 minutes of my 10-day trip, I said, I'm gonna look at that film. And I'm glad I did. And you can tell me whether you think it's worth all this trouble or not. For me, it was. So I found the film number. I sat down on that nice place with all the film reader and the monitors and I started taking images. It was on a roll of microfilm that was filmed in the Western Reserve Library. That's in Cleveland. I was there, but I didn't think to look for that record while I was there. But it says it was filmed there. Hopefully, when you're doing research, you look at everything, but you for sure look at the title and you look at the introduction. And it tells you right here that these pictures were taken in the Western Reserve. Okay. So on that film, I found 3 cards. One was My Lady, Electa Garfield, and it said the notation, this was in the Disciple of Christ Church, and it was founded in 1829, and that's about when she went there, about 1830. And it says there she was one of the first 200 members, and there's something on her on page 66. The other 2 cards I see for the Garfield family are her brother-in-law, Moses, not her husband, Caleb, but her brother and his wife, Hannah, were there. And it says when they were received into the church. To me, that is a big clue. It gives me opportunities to keep looking, not give up on poor Electa. I want to find out more about her. This is a slide that I used in some of my presentations before, reminding people when we're doing genealogy to get the most possible thing out of every record. Before you just click on and move on, you have to evaluate. And I was using this mindset to look at this record on this book that's on film, that was filmed in and was in the Western Reserve Library. And I thought about what records does this lead me to? So, having listened to my own lectures on how to read the introduction, I read this phrase. These records were held on loan to the Western Reserve Historical Society until 1969. At that time, the records were returned to the custody of the church in Aurora, Portage County. So I found a book on Internet Archive all about the history of the Disciples of Christ Church in Ohio. It's mentioned there, but Electa's not mentioned. The church still exists, and that's their website. And I have not contacted them, but I think what I'm going to have to do in the end is the archives. And you probably all know that every church denomination, not every, most church denominations have a central place where the closed churches send their records. If the church closes, it's their archives, it's their library. This is where the main records are kept. And for the Disciples of Christ Church, it's in West Virginia, at a place called Bethany College. And I have not followed through on that yet, but I'm going to try to see what I can come up with by contacting this historical society in West Virginia. My Electa Garfield's son was also, I learned, a Disciples of Christ Church minister. So that opens up and that reminded me that I found he'd been ordained in the church in Kentucky. And supposedly, I would like to look further for that. So it's up to you to decide how best you can use the Salt Lake City Library. As I said, I ignored that record. I knew it was there since I first saw it on the catalog in 2009. To me, because I've been doing this so long and searched so far, it's cheaper for me to go to Salt Lake City, look at something on microfilm that leads a clue to where I can look for more records on my beloved ancestor. And that is all I have to say. Any comments?
There are none. You could probably unshare,
Oh, good.
and then you can see everybody, and everybody can see each other. There we go.
Great. So you're going to unmute everybody?
Yeah, you guys can unmute yourself and ask a question live if you wish.
Yes, or share your tips on, Salt Lake City or the library or research in general. I'd love to hear you share your stories.
So what I do is I go to Harmon's and I buy food for breakfast.
Mhm.
And I used to eat at the office building. I think you can't eat in the office building anymore.
Yes,
But,
yes.
but sometimes what I would do is buy a little extra that would be for dinner.
Yes.
I think I'm going to just hang out longer.
Yeah, yeah. Harmon's grocery store is like kind of like a Whole Foods, but it's got everything. I mean, it's fabulous, and you can buy ready-to-eat meals too that you can heat up in your microwave in the plaza. I do a lot of on-site research, and I also did a lot of when I was working in public health. I did a lot of travel, and I remember telling my friend Benny, I'm going to write a cookbook on how you can cook a meal with a microwave and a coffee maker in a hotel room. And so luckily I'm at the Kimball most of the time, but when I was at the plaza recently too, because the Kimball was full after a few days, and I went over to the plaza, I had some pretty interesting meals with that coffee maker.
So Pam, you may have convinced me to go back to the library.
Okay. I wasn't trying to shame you. I'm just saying you asked a very good question. It's like, well, why should I go anymore? It's
Yeah.
online, and you probably may not be as crazy as I am. So we all have, at least I have my favorite people, and Electa is one of them. And I really, really want to know where she's buried and what happened to her before her husband married 2 more times. Her first husband, by the way, deserted her. She got a divorce from him from the state legislature of Vermont because he treated her with intolerable cruelty and deserted her and her 3 children. So she was a battered woman. I'm a medical social worker. I didn't have to hear the whole court record, but yeah, so I kind of have, she's kind of one of my favorites that I really like to learn more about.
And I have another question. When you were talking about that they'd added the family genealogies books, how much have they added? Like one whole row, or they switched the rows around, or?
You can't tell. I'm just going from their website, what they say.
Okay.
But there's nothing to me. I've had so many clues by just browsing the bookshelves. Maybe that book's online also, but if you go to a certain area of, the books and you look at a county, sometimes you find most of the books are old, but they do, remember, they are coming out with new books all the time. And I kind of look for the spines that are really fresh because, hey, maybe someone else has printed something on Portage County, Ohio since I was there last. So I love libraries. I use the technology, I use the microfilm, but I used to spend the last half of my day in the stacks just to kind of calm down and enjoy the books.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
I've looked at digital images at the library, the one in Oakland,
Yep.
and I come across sometimes it says Granite Mountain Vault.
Yes.
And when I ask at the desk, they tell me, well, there's nothing at the vault. I don't know why it's there, but that doesn't really answer my question. Do you know anything about that?
Well, I know there's a physical place called the Granite Mountain
Right.
Vault. And in the old days, when you went to Salt Lake City, you would ask them in advance of your trip. You'd say, I want some things from the Granite Mountain. And you would put in a request because it takes time. It's like they've got copies all over, but I guess they keep some only in the Granite Mountain.
Mm-hmm.
And you would request them and they'd come to you. I have no idea. There would be no reason that they would be, if they're digital, that they're going to be in the Granite Mountain. I would, as I said, I think the volunteers at all the libraries, Salt Lake and local,
So
they may not know. I would probably contact the main library, Salt Lake, and say, I'm having this problem. What do you think is going on? I have no idea what that means.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
So anybody ready to go now? Raise your hands if you're ready to go.
No more questions, no more tips you don't want to share. Hi, Linda Darby, I see you there. Any tips? You
Linda, you're on mute.
have to unmute yourselves, people.
I haven't been in 3 or 4 years now. Yeah, so I don't have it, but I love Harmon's. You know, I love walking around the square just to
Yeah.
clear your brain and see all the beautiful flowers. And I've had the same issue that Cindy had, but the ones that I saw that were said Granite Vault, they are not digitized.
Yes, I would think.
Yeah.
You have to go to Salt Lake to request them.
Right. Yeah, because I've been going up to Oakland quite a lot.
Okay.
Looking at the locked, because I've tried to get into the locked films from home, and I can't do it on the ones that I'm interested in anyway. So I've been going up to Oakland. But some of the stuff, and this is in the UK, has not been digitized. So, but the historical images thing is very helpful and useful. I have not used it, but
Okay,
I plan to.
good. One thing I didn't mention, I love the gardens. You can go to a rooftop garden on top of the conference center.
Mhm.
That's a huge building that has a waterfall in front of it. It is spectacular. It's like a meadow from Utah and pine trees. And it's incredible. You have to get, they give tours of it. I don't know what the COVID situation is like, but you should really, if you like gardens, that's something you should really check out.
That's a very cool tour. Lisa and I have done it and we really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
No more questions from anybody?
Okay. Thanks for sharing this time.
Thank you, Pam. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes,
Thank you. One more thing I do want to share, and some of you may know and some of you may not know, but the NGS conference is coming up next year in May. Our CGS society is the host society, and probably in January, we're going to start asking for volunteers. I read somewhere that we need like 700 volunteers. So just
I think you
Or
need
the show.
700 volunteer hours is what you need.
Oh, good. Oh, God.
So I've got my hotel reservations booked already. I don't know if those blocks of hotel rooms are sold out, but check out NGS's website for details. And hopefully we'll see you there. And say goodbye. Thank you for attending.
Thanks.
Bye-bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank
Bye.
you.